Hello everyone, my name is Bedekar. I'm a master student from McGill University, Canada, and today I'm here with you all to present a research paper, a multi-platform specification language and dataset for analysis of DevOps pipelines. So, as we all know that in current software industry, development teams are under constant pressure to deliver new products rapidly, and on the other hand, or on the other side, the operation teams are prioritizing reliability, stability, and security of the product. So these often creates tension between speed and safety, and it basically creates a war between integration and delivery processes. So DevOps practices has emerged as a solution, bringing together development and operation teams by fostering culture of collaboration, automation, and it reduces the gap between development team and operation teams. So DevOps practices actually ensures rapid, stable, and reliable product delivery. And DevOps practices has main key feature, which is of automation. So it's a key pillar. And automation actually ensures zero manual interventions, and it significantly reduces possible human errors that can occur in product delivery. However, on the other hand side, the diversity of available DevOps tools like GitHub Actions, GitLab, Azure DevOps, Bitbucket, and each with its own unique specification and format that poses significant challenge for interdialect setup, CI/CD setup migration. And the second challenge that we observe in DevOps practices, and the challenge which we try to address through our research, is difficulty in analysis of different direct pipelines. So how can we address this challenge? Before that, we will just take a look to advantages of domain-specific languages and XText and see how that can be helpful to address the challenge we observed in DevOps pipelines. So DSL, as we all know, DSL is a specialized programming language tailored to particular problem domain, and it basically helps to resolve and express the solution for a specific and concise domain. So DSLs actually provide flexibility of representation in terms of textual, graphical, or mixed notation. DSLs help to identify common patterns that are observed within a domain and which are basically used to represent abstract and common syntaxes. XText is a powerful framework for developing textual domain-specific languages. And it has features like multi-platform support, ease of migration, and other Eclipse framework support. For our future work, for self-adaptable language concepts, XText will be helpful. So all in this context of all challenging DevOps languages, DevOps pipelines, DSL advantages, and XText, we present an innovative solution, a domain-specific language, and a multi-platform editor based on XText that enables consistent analysis of DevOps pipelines across different platforms. And it can standardize the pipeline structure across different platforms. So this multi-platform editor supports 6 different DevOps dialects. So it which includes GitHub Actions, GitLab, Azure DevOps, Bamboo, Bitbucket, and Circle CI. So all of these dialects are basically YAML based. Now let's dive in and explore more about the meta model. So before designing a meta model from scratch, we actually look for the previous research that has happened in this field. Upon looking previous research, we found a necessity of a generalized meta model. The meta model that was previously introduced in one of the research, that meta model was heavily influenced by GitHub Actions and GitLab. And basically that meta model failed to capture diversity of different dialects. So our aim is basically to bridge gap between this generalized gap between this different dialects basically, and create a generalized and robust meta model that can be applicable for multiple dialects, and eventually it will make cross-platform analysis much more easier. To generalize this meta model, we basically added additional classes, incorporated additional classes, and we tested its applicability to multiple dialects. So this meta model includes general DevOps CI/CD concepts like pipeline, basic configuration, job parameter, steps. And along with this, the same meta model contains dialect-specific DevOps CI/CD concepts like job-specific, dialect-specific configuration, stage, and event declarations. So the main point is different dialects basically uses different DevOps CI/CD concepts for maintaining their specifications and declaring the specifications. But the main thing is each and every CI/CD pipeline has three components and that are common in all. So first is basic configuration and initialization. Second is event declaration, and third is job and stages. So in this meta model, pipeline and configuration represents basic setup and initialization. So it includes global parameter declaration and default parameter declaration. Each pipeline is triggered by a specific event. In DevOps pipelines, events are basically declared by starting predefined keywords like on, triggers, etc. So event can be of any type. For example, pull activity or push activity that is performed on a specific branch, or that activity is performed on all branches. It's an event basically. So event declaration includes configurations related to activity and branch settings. Now the third and most important part of CI/CD pipeline declaration is job or stage declaration. So here we see each pipeline may have multiple jobs or multiple stages containing multiple jobs. In this meta model, the XOR constraint between composite of pipeline with job and pipeline with stages ensures that the both jobs and stages are not declared at the same top level. So each job might be dependent on the previous job that is executed, and same applies for the stage. Stage might be dependent on the previous stage. So the jobs which are dependent are executed always in series manner, and all independent jobs are executed parallelly. So jobs and stages are basically used to define the main task that is performed by the pipeline. Now, in case of Azure DevOps, each main task is defined with the help of stage, and that main task is again divided into subtasks and defined by the jobs in the same. But whereas in case of GitHub Actions, it is directly defined in jobs. Jobs contain series of steps that need to be executed, which will fulfill the task necessary. And each step can be an action or a script. Each step might require sub steps, and that could be of same type. Now, the last important concept in this meta model is enumeration, that is pipeline keyword. So we use this enumeration for strict keyword checking policy. This enumeration actually includes all possible keywords that can be used for pipeline specification declarations. This enumeration which we have, it ensures it basically restricts the use of keywords that can be used to declare event, activities, and actions or scripts. Along with this meta model and the concepts that I explained earlier, we have implemented custom validator method in Java that ensures that the person is not using unsupported keywords while declaring DevOps pipelines. Okay, so now let's explore the main research flow. So we conducted this research in 3 different phases. First is data collection. Second is dataset pre-processing and analysis, and third is pattern recognition. Let's take a look to data collection. Okay, so in order to create generalized multi-platform editor, we needed a diverse dataset. And to validate generalization of this meta model, we collected different CI/CD pipelines that are available from different open source projects. And we collected only YAML-based CI/CD pipelines for this project and for this research. So this main task is data collection task is divided into 3 main steps. Okay, so let's explore the first step. In the first step, we actually look for all open source projects that are available on GitHub. So why we look for all open source projects that are available on GitHub, which contains YAML? So basically, the thing is YAML file, the CI/CD YAML file does not have a specific or fixed location. In GitHub Actions, it has, like in .workflows folder, your pipeline file will be present, but not in case of Bamboo, Bitbucket, and Azure DevOps. That's why we look for all open source projects which contain YAML files. Now, before getting actual repositories with repositories and their origins, we did repository count analysis. This repository count analysis was very crucial and essential because basically the GitHub app offers the custom search API queries, and it has major limitation that it can give only 1,000 results per search query. So with this repository count analysis, we actually look for number of repositories created on GitHub till October 2023. And that helped us to maximize our custom API search query. We modified the date slots and captured all repositories with their origin. And we stored those repositories in our origin of that repository in a database. From this process, we collected around 51,000 repositories. Okay. So in step 2, we divided that whole data set that containing origin URL of around 52,800 repositories into smaller slices. And with the help of parallel API request, we look for the YAML files and origin of that repository on Software Heritage. So Software Heritage is an initiative to collect all publicly available softwares and projects. It basically stores the source code, not in this form of just a single version, but it includes all deployment history, version history, and in the form of snapshots. So Software Heritage basically uses graph data structure, and that graph data structure is very essential. Why? Because it stores in a structured way, like it has a unique identifier for each node, and that each node can be a version, revision, snapshot, and it can be directory and basically content. So we can identify or pinpoint any file or any directory just with the help of that unique Software Heritage ID. So from Software Heritage, we were able to collect total, we were able to find 31,456 repositories, and we stored those repositories with relational mapping of YAML file, Software Heritage ID, and origin URL. For the remaining repositories that we did not find on Software Heritage, we directly took from GitHub, and we applied same logic for parallel API request and smaller data slicing. So this essentially was necessary because this data mining was going to take a lot of time, and ultimately we took around 75 hours to complete all the processes. Okay, so after collecting this huge data of 386,000 YAML files, we had to perform dataset preprocessing and analysis to identify potential pipelines. So in this step, we actually collected all possible keywords that can be used to specify each pipeline of the specified 6 types. And we use a keyword overlapping technique to identify different potential pipelines. So this keyword overlapping techniques basically checks the, in YAML format, it checks the keywords and it overlaps with the possible keywords that are for the specific pipeline. And the most code which gets that pipeline could be the potential type. So from this process, we found around 42,000 potential pipelines. And to check and to ensure that those pipelines are correct and those actually pass with our text editor, we designed a text, basically pipeline parser. That pipeline parser is Java-based, and it uses EMF resource loader and validator. So after passing this whole 42,000 pipelines, we did manual verification of random 100 samples just to ensure that the past pipelines are correct or the errors are actually right or not. Okay, so let's take a look to validity of the data set. So out of 42,106 pipelines, we were able to successfully pass 40,160. And with 95.37% accuracy, of course. For the 2.59% files which did not pass successfully, those were having malformed pipeline specifications. So it included, errors like, unexpected keywords, declaration of stages and individual jobs at the same level, etc. And in 2% of the files which did not pass successfully, those files were actually had different use. So that files actually included source configuration for other programs execution, and that configurations included basically snapshots and content of a CI/CD pipelines. So that was making confusion. Okay. Now the third step we perform is pattern recognition. This third step is actually our first step towards self-adaptable languages. So idea of self-adaptable language revolves around monitoring language usage to identify common patterns that can be redefined as new language concept to evolve the languages, and it will basically simplify the specifications. So the identified correctly passed pipelines we separate out and we stored with different dialects according to dialect. And after that, we use Python program just to create a data frame of key skeleton of a pipeline, and we use that data frame passed over through TF-IDF and frequent pattern growth algorithm, and identified the important patterns interesting patterns that we observed from this whole process. So the results that we observed from TF-IDF were actually used to cross-check results that we obtained from the frequent pattern growth algorithm, just for the validity. And in this process, we actually observed common patterns at job level, event level, and whole pipeline specification level. Okay, so let's take a look to some interesting patterns. This is the pattern which we observed in GitHub Actions. So this pattern is basically job parameter pattern. That is like build job is a job name and runs on name, needs, and if. These are actually job parameters. And others are Ubuntu, build information, computer NAS. These are basically variable values. So we observed this pattern exactly around 25% of times in the GitHub Action pipelines. And the interesting part is the jobs which were following this pattern did not have any additional parameter. So it was the only parameter. These were the only 4 job parameters that were defined in the job. Similar to this, we observed another pattern at pipeline specification declaration level in GitHub Action. So it is having just pipeline name, then on. It's basically event trigger and pull request. So we observed this pattern for 90% of times. And last is very interesting pattern that we observed in Azure DevOps. So this is basically initialization of Azure DevOps pipelines. It has name, trigger, and PR value as none. So this pattern we observed around 80% of times. That's a huge amount. So what can be done with these patterns? So our next aim is basically use these patterns, and we'll try to see that how can we incorporate these patterns as new concepts in DSF. So what is all research contributed? So with this research, we actually we created analysis environment for DevOps pipeline researches, which includes domain-specific language and text-based multi-platform editor. Then we present a robust process for reproducing diverse DevOps CI/CD pipelines dataset, and we basically took first step towards self-adaptable DevOps pipelines. Okay, in summary, this research supports 6 dialects: GitHub Actions, GitLab, Azure DevOps, PAM, Bitbucket, and Circle CI. A generalized robust meta model that basically incorporates general DevOps CI/CD concepts and dialect-specific CI/CD concepts. We conducted this research in 3 phases: data collection, reprocessing, and pattern recognition. And as stated, this is the contribution. So in future, we plan to, include the automatic concept integration things, enhance stability and efficiency of Xtext product, and pipeline migration feasibility. So that's all from my side. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer you.